All right. Lori, are you ready to go ahead and get started?
We're ready.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today at our Research Summit. We are so excited to have you all here. My name is Cinnamon Moffett, and I'm the Research Program Manager at Oregon State University's Hatfield Marine Science Center. And again, I'm just excited to have everybody here. I know folks are going to continue to log in as we get started, but we're going to do our best to keep on time. So I'm going to hand this off to Lori to introduce herself.
Thanks, Cinnamon. My name is Lori Wykamp. I work for NOAA Fisheries, Northwest Fisheries Science Center over in the Barry Fisher building. This year, in the past, this is our third research summit that we've had now. And the first two, we were really focusing on who does what. And this year, we're really focusing on collaboration. So you will see that the talks are about collaboration. What we're calling collaboration rooms are trying to get over some of the barriers to collaboration. Sin, logistics.
All right, so we've done this a million times now, but just a reminder that this is a Zoom platform that we're using today. And if you are not a presenter, we have your cameras, mics, and screen shares turned off. We ask that you keep them that way for the duration of this talk. If you are a presenter, we will enable your camera and your mics at the time you're presenting. But once you're done, if you can remember to turn off your camera and mic, that will help us a lot. I wanted to let folks know that we do have an incredibly full agenda, as always, with our research summits. So we're going to be a little aggressive with our time. I'm going to jump on at the end of the talks and just let you all see my face and know that we're running out of time. If you have any questions at all, go ahead and put them in the chat. But please know that we might not get to them live here today. And if they are important and you want to follow up with the presenters, please do so with email. We're going to talk more about the logistics of those collaboration rooms as we get a little bit closer. But I also wanted to let you know that Eric Gleski is our IT support person today. If you have any difficulties at all, you are welcome to chat with him in the chat box. And he will be the one kind of keeping us moving and on schedule. We're also going to be using a tool today called Jamboard. And so I'm going to hand this off to Angie, and she's going to kind of give us a tutorial on how to use this tool for today. Angie?
Yes, hi, thank you. So I'm going to share some links. We have more than 70 participants, so not everyone will be able to use the same summit main room. So pick one, it doesn't matter which one. They will be exactly the same. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen for those of you that have not used Jamboard yet and walk you through some of the features. So the nice thing about Jamboard is it's really good for collaboration, for brainstorming. It's a Google product, and so lots of different people can all be in it at the same time. Jamboard can have 50 people, so if you try to join one, it tells you it's full. We have 2 of them, so you'll be good either way. There's 7 screens. You can go screen to screen by hitting these arrows up here. This is also going to have our links for collaboration rooms, which we'll also be sharing in chat, so don't worry about copying those down, but they're up here if you're curious. We have a needs and opportunities bulletin board. So if you have anything you'd like to share with the group, feel free to grab a sticky note from the side and put whatever you want on there and go ahead and share it. We also have a map. We're really curious in knowing where everyone works. And so we'd love for everyone right now, to go ahead and let us know where you work. I'm going to use the pin, but you can really use anything you want. You can use a sticky note. You could use a shape. You could draw a circle. I work actually here in Newport, but outside Hatfield Marine Science Center. I am with Oregon Sea Grant, and so I am at the Extension Building on Bay Boulevard. Oh, look, we've got someone in marine studies. Excellent. So we can all add in real time where we work and get an idea of the people here today, where your office is when you're in your office. We also have a kind of just a brainstorming bulletin board for what are your expectations for today. You can use text, you can use sticky notes, you can use photos. If you click on photos, you can use a Google image search and you just, type in excitement, whatever you want. and put some pictures up there, some sticky notes. Let us know what your expectations are for today. Please share any examples of collaborations resulting from summits past. So if you've attended a couple of these summits before and you had a collaboration because of it, let us know. And finally, collaboration was this year's theme. What should the theme be for next year? Let us know your thoughts, and we will be downloading both this summit page as well as the other one that's identical to this one, and really putting together kind of your thoughts, your ideas for next year's research summit. So feel free to continue to play with those Jamboards, and let me know if you have any questions or issues. Thanks.
All right, thank you so much, Angie. We will be using those Jamboards throughout today. That general meeting Jamboard you can use throughout and add anything you want. And then we have specific Jamboards for our collaboration rooms that we'll talk about a little bit more. Lori, did you have something you wanted to add before I jump into the agenda?
Go ahead.
So up on the screen, you have today's agenda. We're doing our welcome right now. And then we're going to jump into a couple of presenters that are going to do some talks about successful collaborations. And then we're going to do our first collaboration room session. Most of you got the room that you've been assigned to in an email earlier, or actually at the end of last week. But if you have any troubles once we do those, and again, we'll talk a little bit more, Eric will help us get to the right place. We're going to take a short break in the middle of today's event, and then we'll come back and we'll have a couple more talks about successful collaborations. And then we have the opportunity to go into our second session collaboration room. And then we'll wrap up. So this is going to go really, really quickly. And then we'll talk more about it at the end, but there also is an optional social tonight, a face-to-face social at Beer One. So we're hoping that you'll be able to join us there. But we're going to try another tool. Eric, can you go ahead and launch our first poll? So we're going to try a poll in Zoom to find out who you work for in this format as well. So if everyone wants to answer the poll. All right, we're about to end that poll. Okay, Eric, I think you can end that and show us the results. Okay, so what I'm seeing is that we have about 28% of us are federal, about 16% are state, about 42 work for the university. We have about 9 students, and we have 1% of us that are contractors. So that's who's in the room today. We are a diverse group, which is what makes Summit such a cool experience for us. Eric, go ahead and go to the word art for me, the next slide. There it is. So one of the things that we always do is we do a pre-survey and just kind of figure out who is here at Hatfield and what are we working on. And so this is this year's word art. And as you can see, we are dominated, of course, by marine, but also habitat, fisheries, ecology, estuaries, genomics, and lots of other things. So one of the things that makes Hatfield so special is just the diversity of folks that are here, what we do, and all the things that we do in common. And so that's kind of what we're going to learn a little bit more about today. But I wanted to just let folks know that the summit is pulled together by lots of different folks. There's a large committee that works on this, and we are cross-agency. And we hope to put this together to enrich our lives at working at Hatfield. We recognize that you are all so crazy busy, especially with all the things that we're doing on Zoom, but we thank you so much for being here and being a part of this community where we're able to talk and share with each other. As with any virtual event, there might be some bumps. Work with us, please be patient. We're going to do our best to fix them if we can. I also wanted to just put in a little plug, like we already talked about, the pre and post surveys for this event are really critical. So at the end of today, you'll get a post survey. I encourage you to fill it out. It will totally guide what we do next year. And with that, I think we're actually right a little bit ahead of schedule, which is wonderful. That'll give us a little bit more time for question and answer. But Lori, I'm going to hand it off to you to start our talks. And Bob, you're going to be up next. Yep. So Lori, it's yours.
Fantastic. Yes. So we are now at the first set of talks that are really designed to highlight the benefits and successes of collaboration. Our first speaker is Bob Cowan. Many of you know him as the director of Hatfield, where he's been in that position since 2013. And when he's not being the director, he's also a biological oceanographer who regularly collaborates with a variety of academic and agency colleagues. So please help me welcome Bob to kick things off.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Really excited about this third summit. The first two have been huge successes, so I'm really looking forward to some of the discussions. I'm going to share my screen here. So, as is clear, the theme of this year's summit is collaboration. And in that sort of in its larger context, this summit will serve as a chance to discuss the value, the process, as well as opportunity for collaboration. Basically the why, the how to do it, and the how to do it well. These are all important components of working together with people. And when we look at Hatfield, and we can see this image right here, there's a wealth of scientists, there's agencies, there's a variety of academic units, and there are different skill sets that these people have, different tools available, and there are a variety of extenders. For example, research that we do, but with the outreach component, such as is offered by Oregon Sea Grant or the STEM Hub. How we bring these different parts together, how do we benefit from that? How do we certainly bring not just Hatfield, but the rest of the university resources and personnel there together is what we're talking about with this whole summit. So a simple working definition of collaboration is working together for a common purpose. Very general. In our context, we're thinking about that purpose being to achieve some sort of scientific product. That product can be a paper, it can be a grant, it can be a workshop, or it can just be learning a specific skill set to apply. It doesn't have to be some grand overall partnership, but it certainly benefits. We can see benefits of that as well. When we surveyed everyone last year about this question, we came up with about 30 replies of what collaboration was and their definition. And so I have Wordle for one of those as well. And we see at the center, of course, is collaboration, and it's cooperative interactions. It's leveraging what we have, the skill sets we have. It's sharing, it's bringing different things together. I particularly like this one, parties. I'm not quite sure how many people think that a collaboration is just getting together for a party, but there's lots of good aspects of coming together for this. But it really is, it's bringing skills, ideas to approach different funding sources, papers. It's working together in all the good aspects that come out of that. Collaborations aren't new. They've been going on for as long as science, as long as people have been together. But I think they've evolved through time, particularly as our environmental questions and challenges get greater and greater and more complex. Certainly when I was a graduate student, I was encouraged to write my scientific papers as a sole author. And I've even heard it in tenure decisions, talking about, well, how many sole authored or how many first authored. But we're evolving in our thinking about this and seeing the real value of working together as teams and bringing each other's strengths together. And so this is sort of what we're going to be talking about here today. I just want to go over some of the advantages of collaboration and sort of set up the next couple of speakers. And that is, so first of all, when you collaborate, you do make new friends, you develop new colleagues. And this actually is a fairly enriching part of what we do professionally. And when you look through a whole career, the number of times you collaborate, you build this network, and it gets bigger and bigger. And it's a very positive, enjoyable aspect of it. Just that's probably one of the most human aspects of it. Working in some sort of collaboration, you educate yourself. You're stimulating your interest in new disciplines. You're being to work with someone that's in a different field. You have to learn a little bit about what they're doing in order to understand how it relates to what you're doing. And that's a very positive sort of student for life perspective. It broadens your impact of your work. So whatever you're doing, whatever field you're in, by bringing in collaborators, particularly from other fields, they are helping to extend the importance of your work, the impact, perhaps in solving a problem, or if nothing else, in adding to the number of potential scientists who might see your work as part of that collaboration. It helps improve your ability to communicate. We all hear about the importance of the elevator speech, the 20-second, 15-second speech explaining what you're doing. Well, it doesn't have to be that short, but your ability to tell a scientist or a investigator or a community member what you're doing is a really important aspect. And the more diverse your audience is, their number of collaborators, you get better and better at sort of understanding the nuanced importance of how to say what you're doing. Increased productivity is very clear. If you have several people coming together and each partition's part of writing a paper, that's a lot easier than writing that paper yourself. So it's a very clear benefit in that aspect alone. You can certainly address more complex and impactful questions. Certainly in the work I do, particularly when I was a graduate student, I was focusing on the feeding ecology of a particular fish. Well, how that relates to other organisms, or how the changes in ocean conditions might affect the impact of that fish, required me to work with a broader group of people. And as I expanded that linkage, the importance or the value or even just the interest of the work I was doing grew, and more people wanted to pay attention to it. When you're just focusing on a fairly small point, it's really important to do that work, but you have a relatively limited group to communicate with. So also, your ability to address more complex questions comes with having higher quality data, having data that another specialist brings to you instead of you trying to figure out how to get it. Also, the different skill sets that can be applied to the problem. So overall, you're addressing these more complex issues more effectively. That leads to better science. Another aspect of it is by having different disciplines working together with different scientists, there tends to foster a discussion of alternative hypotheses. Why are you hypothesizing that? What are your assumptions? And you have to explain it to someone, but if you're all like-minded, you kind of accept those sometimes. So this is a way to sort of put us into a real evaluation, a better evaluation of what we're trying to do and how to approach our science. Collaboration can certainly expand funding opportunities. Here at OSU, at Hatfield, we're going to even hear about the agency, institution, OSU institution collaborations that can occur within a academic environment. We can go to NSF funds, for example. Agency funds are not directly accessible to us, but if we're working with an agency collaborator, then the funds that they have access to can play into a partnership, and vice versa. Our NSF access can help bring agency personnel into those sorts of research interactions. Collaborators bring access to different funding sources, federal funding sources. If you work primarily with NOAA type of funds, Sea Grant, for example, or NSF, but then you start collaborating with someone who is regularly working with NASA, boy, that opens up a lot of possibilities. And so there's this expansion of funding opportunities. And then finally, institutionally, when you have a culture of collaboration, it promotes or fosters innovation. It's when you're used to talking to people, knowing how to communicate with them, sharing the excitement of what you're doing with what they're doing and what they might be able to bring to it. That's when new ideas come up. And then all these other advantages really start to pay off. So I look forward today to the discussions, the meeting rooms, the breakout rooms have a variety of different topics, some of which address some of these things, such as funding opportunities, academic agency interactions around specific topics, many of them complex, like climate change. I really hope that everyone can benefit from this, and I look forward to participating with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bob. I appreciate it. I'm going to hand it back to Lori to introduce our next speaker.
Thank you, Sin. As Bob pointed out, there's a lot of benefits to collaborating. And so now the remainder of the talks are really going to provide examples, concrete examples of what people have done by collaborating. Our first speaker is Jennifer Fisher, who's going to be talking about shipboard platforms and collaboration. Jennifer works for the Cooperative Institute for Marine Research Studies at Hatfield. She's been here for 11 years. She's a biological oceanographer and a zooplankton ecologist. So Jennifer, you should be able to turn on your camera and share your screen. Uh-oh, blocked. One of these little
Yeah, try now.
All right, great,
All right.
thanks. Let me share my screen. Great, so everybody can see my title slide and the pointer? I'm gonna take that as a yes.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Lori and Cinnamon, for putting this together, and thank you, Bob, so much for setting this up. I hope a lot of what I'm about to show really reflects a lot of the benefits that you showed of why we want to collaborate. So today I'd like to give you just some examples of different collaborations we've formed over the past few years. And in the 10-minute time slot I have, I can't cover everything, but we wanted to just present an overview. And apologies in advance for anyone out there listening who isn't mentioned in this presentation. But before I begin, I just wanted to introduce my co-authors and lab mates, Sam Zeman, Kim Jacobson, and the newest member of our lab, Anna Bohm. And we've been talking about rebranding our lab a little bit and coming up with a new name. So I wanted to just try out this name, the Newport Line Drifters, to the audience here. I think this is a very appropriate name because not only do we spend a lot of time drifting around on the ocean, we also study plankton, which is the Greek word for wanderers or drifters. So let's make this a little fun. I should have done a poll, but why don't you vote in the chat whether you like this name, or if you don't like it, feel free to suggest a new one. So what does our lab study? Well, Kim Jacobson gave a really nice overview of our research and monitoring program at last year's Research Summit, but I'll briefly remind you what we study here. We study lower trophic levels and their habitat, in the context of how climate variability affects the distribution and abundance of zooplankton. And we address different research hypotheses, and we also develop ocean ecosystem indicators that are used for fisheries management. So we work with both academic researchers, also NOAA researchers. And to do this, we collect samples off of Newport, often on this lovely boat here, the Alaka. We go out twice monthly, and we've been doing this now for 25 years. So the bottom line is that we are on the ocean a lot, which is going to be the focus of my talk today and how we can collaborate at sea. So to place this inshore Newport line transect into the broader context of the greater Northern California current ecosystem, we also conduct the same sampling that we do on the Alaka twice a month on larger NOAA vessels. We're often going out on the Bell and Shimada here, and we generally do these surveys in the winter, spring, and the fall. These vessels allow us to stay out longer, thus sample a larger geographic area. And these larger vessels also provide an excellent platform to invite visiting researchers and students to come aboard and to collaborate with us. And it's through these collaborations where we are able to address research questions from a much broader scientific knowledge base, to study different organisms, for example, or to address questions that involve expertise beyond that of our groups. These are all benefits that were highlighted in Bob's talk. And these collaborations have also allowed us to get to know the greater scientific community at Hatfield, faculty and faculty research assistants on campus, and also folks in the greater Pacific Northwest. We often have tribal members or NOAA people from Seattle, or even faculty members from Portland State that come aboard with us. And our collaborations vary in scope and size. Here I'm highlighting a larger cross-agency collaboration that Maria Kavanaugh of CEOS is leading. Here's Maria here fiddling with her plankton robot on the Shimada. And this collaboration really started with Maria accompanying us on a Northern California current ecosystem survey on the Shimada in 2018. And it quickly became clear how our research questions aligned and how complementary our sampling needs were. We were super jazzed by all the new research questions we came up with while we were at sea. And we vowed once we got off the ship to find a way to continue working with one another. So after a couple of failed proposal attempts, Maria and the co-PIs listed here were awarded an M-bond funding in 2019. And so this has really expanded into a large multi-agency collaboration. We're working with the Cowan Lab and their ISIS imaging system to study the lower trophic levels of varying size classes. And this has really expanded our research technologically and has broadened our hypotheses beyond what we could normally address with our traditional methods. Smaller, but not less important collaborations involve other OSU researchers, such as those listed here. These collaborations have mainly stemmed from our capacity to provide a platform for folks to come and collect samples, or in situations where people can't go out to sea. We are out so often, we're happy to collect samples for people. In turn, they're often helping us during our broader ecosystem surveys, and we all benefit from one another's varied expertise. Each of these collaborations has also led to additional proposals and awards to support students and to continue the research in the future. And I can't help but wonder what this little bird right here is thinking of Dave Jacobson's definition of copepod transcriptomics. We've also been collaborating with the GEM Lab over the past 5 years, where they send marine mammal observers out on our NCC ecosystem surveys. GEM Lab benefits from semi-regular sampling of marine mammals over a larger geographic area. And recently, Rachel Kaplan, who is a PhD student being co-advised by Lee Torres and Kim Bernard, she's come aboard on these surveys, and she'll be utilizing some of our existing data streams, so our acoustic data and our net tow data, to develop krill and marine mammal species distribution models. And just like Bob was talking about, these are things that we've wanted to develop, these krill distribution models, for a long time, but it's outside of our bandwidth. So these models are very important for fisheries management because krill are a key forage species, and this collaboration is now enabling that, and we're really excited about it. And because we sample so frequently, there's an excellent opportunity or an excellent platform for students for data collection. Or we can provide time series of archived samples, or a time series going back from the 25 years that we have data of hydrographic data, and this might extend the life of, say, a 2-year master's or a 5-year PhD. So not only could you collect data in the field for 2 or 5 years, you could extend this back in time. So this really sets up an environment for student success while also providing an opportunity for students to gain at-sea experience, which I think is really valuable. And as you might imagine, the bulk of the work begins when we hit the dock. More data are collected than we can synthesize by our small group. And so to maximize the products from our research, we work with faculty such as Lorenzo Gianelli. He mentors postdocs for us that can help synthesize some of our data. We also work with particular experts such as Melanie Fewings, Craig Ruzine, and Brandy Cervantes. In this case, they're bringing physical oceanographic expertise to our team that we don't currently have. And we often provide researchers and students with biophysical data for whatever species they're interested in. So what are some of the benefits of collaborating that our group has come from? Well, we can expand the accessibility of ocean sampling by providing a platform for sample collection. And in turn, this greatly increases the applications of our current research efforts beyond the expertise and the time or bandwidth of our immediate research group. And in some situations, collaborating can also expand our research and monitoring capabilities. We recently went up to Forks, Washington, where we tested this, this glider. It's basically a sail drone. It's an autonomous surface vehicle. And this is in collaboration with John Mickett at UW. And this sail drone is supposed to go out during ocean conditions where it's very windy, it's very rough, where we can't traditionally sample. And this sail drone will collect water samples so that we can monitor HABs. So we can now expand our research to time periods where we can't normally go out and sample. And from a poll from last year's summit, I think it was last year's summit, maybe it was just recently, the community came up with basically the main barriers to collaboration were funding and no time. And I would definitely not disagree with that. I probably voted for those. And you may be thinking right now, well, I'm preaching this kind of, well, we have it easy, provide a ship and they will come. That's not necessarily the case. There's still funding that needs to be obtained to sustain these collaborations. And there's a considerable amount of time that goes into fostering collaborations and continuing them. So we are unique in that much of our ship time is already funded through other projects. And often a collaboration will begin through a conversation or a day or more at sea, but to continue the collaboration and to sustain the collaboration, you're going to need additional funding. But that can be from either small or large grants, at least in our history. Both of those have helped us to foster these collaborations moving forward. And I think most importantly is time. We're all stretched thin, we all have limited bandwidth, and we're continually being asked to do more with less. So I think for our group, the recipe for a successful collaboration is it really has to be mutually beneficial. It can't be one-sided, and there needs to be equal participation. We've all been in that relationship where somebody just ask, and not willing to give as much. I think for the collaboration to be sustained in the future, there really needs to be equal participation. And this is just the recipe that our group has kind of come with. I'm sure each of you have your own sets of criteria. So I challenge you to think about those over the next day or so, or when you're in these outbreak groups, and think about what are the key factors that would contribute to not only successful collaboration, but what do you need to be able to sustain that collaboration. And lastly, I'd just like to leave you with, collaborating is really fun. When you get 14 scientists and you go out to sea for 12 days, you work really hard, you get seasick, you bond, you address a lot of research questions. But as Bob mentioned, there's always more hypotheses generated than are answered. We often leave the ship with CIA, or what we've called candy-induced acne, and we have a lot of laughs. So hopefully this has inspired you to come chat with us, any of us, and let's collaborate.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jennifer, for a wonderful, inspiring speech. Our next speaker is Scott Groats. Scott works for ODF&W, and he is actually not here at Hatfield, but is in Charleston and works on the OIMB campus, where he's been working for 19 years. Scott is a fisheries biologist who works on shrimp, sea urchins, abalone, and crabs, and he's going to be talking to us about collaboration with stakeholders. So please share your screen, Scott.
All right. Thank you, Lori and Cinnamon, for having me here. Let's see. Okay. Can you see my screen, Lori?
Yes, perfect.
Great. Great job, Bob and Jennifer. I really enjoyed those talks. There's some overlapping themes here. Like the screen says, my name's Scott Groats, and I am the Pink Shrimp and South Coast Shellfish Project Leader for ODFW here in Charleston. And what that actually entails is I manage a number of marine invertebrate fisheries, principally pink shrimp, which is a big fishery, like 80 boats, $25 million ex-vessel per year. So really big and valuable. And then a bunch of small fisheries like sea urchins, where there's a small number of stakeholders, but it's valuable. And then an imperiled group of abalones that formerly did have fisheries that are closed now, both recreational and commercial, and then some boutique kind of marine invertebrate fisheries such as spot prawns. And with all these fisheries, we really have a limited budget. So collaborating with stakeholders is particularly key. And what I'm going to focus on is working with people in those fisheries mainly, even though I do a lot of work with scientists and other agency folks and academics and such. So collaboration is important to ODFW, primarily for fishery management. All of these fisheries come with a bunch of issues, and you have to understand those, research them, and sort of legislate or manage accordingly. Some obvious examples is bycatch reduction, issues with eulachon and overfished species in that fishery. But then communicating those results and having stakeholders understand those results, keeping that communication open is critical to fishery management. And lastly is sampling. Just simply, the only way we can index the condition of a lot of these stocks is from working with stakeholders to get samples, whether that be biological samples or logbooks or whatever have you. Next is just scientific progress, really important to ODFW. We rely on stakeholders to help us understand these stocks, improve the biological understanding of those species, particularly in relation to management, but also, ODFW's produced numerous studies of improved biological understanding in these fish species. And last is helping industry, industry bridge with scientists. So industry, in the form of commercial fishers, say, has access to a lot of, weird and different and easier for them to find things. And scientists, have this need to progress science, but may not have as much access to samples. So bridging those is really critical. So I broke this talk into just 3 quick examples of times where ODFW has collaborated with stakeholders. And the first one is regarding pink shrimp, that big fishery, where we collaborate with the fleet to acquire logbooks and biological samples. So the logbooks are, how much you caught, where you caught it, and we have that fleet of 80 skippers filling that form out and reporting that annually. And for sampling, we're getting that at processing plants, so we have to rely on them as stakeholders. And with that data, that purely fishery dependent data, we can make a stock assessment. It's the equation's a lot more complicated and complex than this, I can promise you, but essentially we rely primarily on that fishery dependent data to develop this back calculation of the stock assessment. It's called a virtual population estimate. And we can take that stock assessment and compare it to environmental variables. And with that, we've found the drivers of population levels of that stock. And it's critical to management. So some of the barriers to this are obvious. Compliance. We have a really good fleet right now, but it takes constant maintenance and constant communication so they understand the needs for that data. And next is the application of that data. Not all fishery dependent data has value to science. So having sophisticated looks at what the most valuable data is and to ease that workload on your collaborators here is critical. And this type of stock assessment wouldn't be possible with fishery independent methodology. They tried that early in the 60s and 50s when this fishery started, and these shrimp only live 2 or 3 years, and the stock is sporadic, and you would just need a fleet of science boats out there. So these guys are our scientists. And that assessment is fundamental to the sustainability of that stock. Very proudly, Oregon's pink shrimp was the first shrimp fishery ever certified sustainable by the Marine Stewardship Council, and that's a certificate we still have. So very proud of that. And we communicate the results of this fishery dependent collaboration along with a lot of our fishery independent collaborations or not annually to stakeholders, scientists, other agencies, processors, shrimpers, etc. The second example is to collaborate with stakeholders to capture fishery independent data. And in this example, I'm going to talk about working with commercial sea urchin divers to survey sea urchins. So in this case, we had this big management gap. We hadn't done sea urchin surveys for 20 years, and the fishery is a no quota, unlimited fishery. So it's a pretty major data gap, and we had no means to do that survey. ODFW does not have a dive program, and standard commercial divers, usually coming from Seattle or such, would be very expensive and would need to be totally trained up. But we, look around and we have this industry that is extremely capable and efficient, but we just had to overcome the barrier of converting those harvesters into scientific divers. So we modified the methodology in such a way so their data, the data that came from these studies that began in 2009, matches the data that was previously taken in the late 80s and throughout the 90s. The result of this collaboration was a big increase in investment by the fleet. They learned a lot about what we do at ODFW, and since then have contributed to science in a number of ways beyond this, which is great. It gave us the ability, us as ODFW, to get this data to understand the trends of the stock, which eventually, when combined, led to improved fishery sustainability for that small but valuable fishery. The last example, I'll talk about bridging stakeholders. And this is really important. And a great recent example is we worked with George Walbusser's lab to collect egg shrimp. And shrimp are 20 miles offshore, 100 fathoms deep, and only available in the winter. So it needs, the only people that would be qualified to collect those would be commercial shrimpers. So a number of commercial shrimpers volunteered to collect those, and that worked very well. We've done a number of collaborations with sea urchin divers and sport harvesters to collect sea urchins and abalones for various scientific projects. Here we have, that's Tom Ebert holding the biggest sea urchin he's ever put in his hands after all those years of sea urchin research. And that was consequent from a collaborative survey. Next is genetic samples. With all the agency knowledge and knowledge of locations and people in the state, we're in a great position to find rare things. And we've been able to contribute those to regional genetic assessments of different species, including Olympia oysters, which only occur in a few places, and abalones, which are extremely difficult to find. And last, and probably my favorite type of collaboration is assisting in collaborations. And a good example of this is we had a University of Oregon researcher that was doing work on egg crab, and he had dove for the crab and tried to catch them with sport pots, and they're just very rare. However, commercial fishermen see thousands of crab every day and are much more likely to run into those egg crab, but it's illegal for them to harvest them. So I was able to work with the permitting process to connect those two and then get out of the way. And it really helped the students work and really caused some big time increased investment by the commercial crabbers that worked with them. So some concluding thoughts as I was listening to Bob's talk. You'd think I read his talk, but I didn't. So stakeholder collaboration, there's a text about, sorry about that. Stakeholder collaboration really increases the effectiveness of our science and really the efficiency, and then allows for all this great communication. And then, when you're thinking about how to approach these collaborations, it's really important to understand the perspective of collaborators, understanding what they do for a living. And one of the key issues, working with industry is there's often different socioeconomic background between scientists and researchers. So to find common ground amongst us is critical. And then I think a couple of people said this is just important in life, is be able to communicate your job, be able to tell someone who might be going out of their way to work with you, why what they're doing is important and what the goals of your job is. And lastly, just showing results, sharing the results of these collaborations. Is usually a lot of gap in between the initial collaboration and the final product. So being sure to share those results with the people that helped you is critical. And that's all I have on collaboration. Thanks a lot.
Thanks,
Thank
Scott.
you so much, Scott. Go ahead, Lori.
Take it away.
All right. First of all, I just want to say thanks for Bob to set everything up, and then for Scott and Jennifer to just give us a couple of examples of collaboration and kind of the different flavors that it might take. We are going to, in just a minute, go to our breakout rooms, but if there are any questions for Scott, go ahead and put them in the chat. Otherwise, I think we have enough time to do a fun poll. So go ahead, Eric, if you will you open up our COVID impacts poll for us, and we will go ahead and answer some questions. So for everybody that's joining us, what do you think the most unexpected benefit of working from home has been? If you want to answer that poll. And if you haven't noticed, there's two questions to this poll, so go ahead and answer both of those. All right, Eric, I think we can go ahead and close that poll and share those results. All right. For those of you that maybe can't see our screen, we're seeing unexpected benefits of working at home. Working in my slippers, 9%, that would have been me if I could vote. Pet as an office mate, 31%. Casual work attire, 10%. Lower carbon footprint, 22%. More time with family, 22%. And not having to take a shower, 4%. On our second question of unexpected COVID benefits, have you experienced unexpected career or professional opportunities due to COVID? And some of the answers that we saw looks like our top number is the ability to attend more remote meetings and seminars like this one. Also strengthening some of our collaborations across geographic areas. So those are some of the things that we saw. So thanks everybody. COVID has been challenging for us, but it also has given us a couple of unexpected benefits. So we're going to start moving into our collaboration rooms. So Eric, can you share that slide? There we go. Just a couple of things logistics wise I want to share with everybody. You are going to be pushed automatically, hopefully, into the assigned a collaboration room that you chose during your registration. If for some reason you don't get pushed out, there are a few of us that I just saw that aren't quite assigned to a room. And if you would like to go to a room and you don't get pushed out, Eric is going to work with you to help assign you to a room. So Eric, can you jump in and just tell us how you're going to help folks get to where they need to go?
Yeah, surely. Basically, you'll when I start the rooms, you'll see a thing that says you're being sent, and you'll be able to, when you're in the room, either send a message to the host if you want to move, or you can leave the room and come back to this main room, and we can figure out where you need to go. So if you have any specific questions, just let me know.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Eric. You can see up on the slide that several of our rooms are pretty full. So if you are not assigned to a room and you so choose to pick one of the rooms that aren't full, that would be great. If you really have your heart set on joining one of the rooms that are full, go ahead. Just know that the room might have several participants already in it. And again, just be patient with Eric. He's going to work with you to get you where you need to go. Once you get to your breakout room, you will all have control of your cameras and audio, so you can participate in the conversation. But another way that you can participate in the conversation is we have specific Jamboard links at the bottom of the screen. And I think that Angie's also going to put them into the chat so that you can get to them from there. But you're able to go into those Jamboards and share in that way as well. So you can kind of see that there are 3 collaboration rooms for one of our Jamboard links that ends with the number 5, and 3 of our collaboration rooms that use the Jamboard that ends with an S. Okay, wanted to let everybody know that there are facilitators in each of the rooms to help keep you on track, but you will get a 2-minute warning from Eric when the rooms are about to suck you back into this main room. So just kind of keep track of time. And again, if you have any questions for Eric, go ahead and let him know. One other little piece, these collaboration rooms aren't necessarily presentations, they are discussion rooms. They are a place for us all to get together and talk about this particular topic. And so I really encourage you to participate, interact, and be a part of the conversation. The best collaboration rooms are the ones where everybody's engaged and having a really interesting conversation. If there are any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat about this particular time session. Lori, anything I forgot? Cheryl, anything I forgot?
Nope, I think we're good to go.
Sounds
All right,
great.
Perfect. Thank you both. I think we gained like 2 extra minutes. But if everyone is ready, Eric, do you want to go ahead and push us out?
Yeah, everybody hold on to your hats. Here we go.
Testing, testing.
Yes, hello.
Oh, sorry.
Hi, Kristen.
Hi. I was awkwardly fixing my headset.
You're supposed to be in 3. Okay, let me get you to that one.
Thank you.
Hi, Eric. This is Scott. I'll take climate change and fisheries if it's available.
Scott, climate change and fisheries. Scott Appel.
Indeed.
There you go.
I will join in that one too, Greg Krzyzewski.
Was that Greg for the same one?
Yes. Yep, that'd be great.
Hi, Michelle Stoll here. I'll also join climate change and fisheries if you have a moment. Thank you.
Very good.
Hi, this is Dale Workham. I'd like to go to the climate monitoring station.
Which one was that?
All right, climate monitoring station.
Hang on. Your microphone is cutting in and out on me. Is it climate change and marine ecosystems you wanted?
No, the climate monitoring station.
Oh, climate monitoring stations. Hang on. Here we go. Hang on.
Thank you.
Hi, Eric. This is Allie Whitman. It just occurred to me that my Zoom profile has me with my maiden name, and so that you might not know to send me to climate change and marine ecosystems.
I will send you there now. Climate change and
Yes.
marine ecosystems. Here you go.
Thank you very
is to line this up at 5 o'clock, but we're going to start our next talks next. Hopefully you had a chance to get up, stretch, re-energize your brain, but I'm going to hand this back over to Lori.
Thank you. And our first speaker for the next set of examples of collaboration is Yichang Chen. Yichang is going to be talking about collaborating with interns. He works for the Hatfield Director's Office. He's in the Department of Integrative Biology, also involved in the Marine Studies Initiative and the Oregon Coast STEM Hub. He's also directs the OSU's Marine Science Research Experience for undergrads, or the RU program, and he serves as vice chair of education for the National Association of Marine Labs, or NAML. It just makes me tired thinking about it. He's been at Hatfield since 2007, or almost 15 years, and his expertise is in undergraduate teaching and developing research internship training programs, as well as K-12 STEM education. So please help me welcome Yichang to talk about interns.
Lori, thanks for that introduction. Let's see here. All right.
Perfect. Got it.
Wonderful. Great. So I was asked to talk a little bit about internships, and I think in part because I've been running this RU program for so long, but also a number of other things. And so my attempt is to share in the next 10 minutes, essentially some of the stuff that we've done here at the Marine Science Center. And so how can internships increase collaboration? Again, my name is Yichang Chen, and let's go. Oh, so I just want to show these are images of actually RU interns from this summer. The last 2 summers, we actually continued to run our RU program. That's Research Experiences for Undergraduates. And we had a completely remote virtual internship last summer. And this summer, we had a combination of completely remote, hybrid, and on-site. So those are 3 different modes of offering an internship. And so the pandemic, again, has shown us a lot of different ways of doing things. So I want to bring up, so we've all seen this collaboration barriers. This is an image that I pulled from our pre-survey, and top one being funding and the other one being time. And then I would actually argue the rest of those multicolored wedges of the pie actually is communication or relationship building. And so I think those are really the 3 legs of the stool that support collaboration across these things. And so with internships, I feel that internships can serve as a bridge between faculty and researchers. Internships can serve as a training ground, not only for interns to see research collaboration from the inside, but also for researchers to learn to collaborate with others. And those are researchers at all different levels, interns at all different levels, and for that matter, grad students and just simply students to see that process. So the best manifestation of internships, again, relationship building, which takes time, particularly with partners in industry, academia, agency, and NGOs. Expanding or leveraging of current funding, that's how internships can be used, as well as developing new funding directions. Piloting or testing a difficult to fund research direction or project, and reduction of burden. And in our previous collaboration room, we talked about bureaucracy and the administration piece. And then I don't want to say that I know everything, and so that's why I put those question marks. I think being here for almost 15 years, I recognize I also might have blinders as well. And so I want to be make sure that we're open to different ways of doing things, particularly how we leverage internships. So what does collaboration through internships look like? Well, that can take on many forms, from co-mentoring, where you have multiple people mentoring a student or students, group of students, to co-funding, where you utilize that matching funds to allocate more funding to support a student or an intern or research projects. The other piece is good administrative structure and support. So streamlining that process so you can focus on the research and not the policies and structures that are set in place to protect everyone involved in that activity. The other piece is mentoring support, right? So don't want to do anything by yourselves, and ideally you want to work as a team. And I feel like a lot of the things that we're talking about around collaboration is essentially what we've learned or tried to teach grade school kids on how to be a team player, working on a project, how to be a team player, and having clear expectations on whose roles are what roles everyone has. And then the other is it's really great opportunity to pilot research projects on short-term scales with low risk. If you, I talk about when I first arrived here, we talked about a Venn diagram that was shared among researchers. One was funding for interesting research versus fundable research and how they align, and that Venn diagram of showing what could be interesting and fundable at the same time. And I think that this internships allow for folks to, again, apply some minimal funding to interesting projects that aren't necessarily fundable by a traditional grant or award. I also want to highlight that through internships and that structure, one of the things that I discovered, which was really surprising to me, is the number of folks who don't have their say their NSF biosketch set up, or some of these other organizations that require a very formal form for being a partner or collaborator. And I want to recognize that for our RU internship, we provided that support to try to develop NSF biosketches for all of our senior personnel on our grant. And I would encourage everyone to look into that more closely. Our RU program supported over 370 interns over the span of this program, as well as we have a number of other internships, formal internships that bring together mentors from across not only OSU, but all these different agencies. And actually one of the criticisms of our RU proposal at the very beginning of this program was that agency researchers couldn't mentor RU interns because they weren't part of the university, and so we weren't funded for a year, and then we rewrote that and argued against that, and obviously we went out and proved them wrong, because we're one of the largest marine science RU programs in the country. So I would say that internships allow for folks to really co-mentor, get co-funding, get that structure and support, and also try out different areas of research that you may not have funding for in your current funding resources. I want to also highlight, the pandemic has also highlighted a lot of different ways of doing things. And I want to bring up the term collaborative online international learning. It's a term that I learned just recently, which it allows for folks to work internationally online with various researchers. This is a class that I taught this past spring that's looking into doing an online international internship program. And so if you're not familiar with COIL, I would check it out, and I'll highlight that at the end here with a couple of resources. Again, there are a lot of different ways to collaborate, particularly with interns and students. And this is just one of them, and one that is obviously become a highlight during the pandemic as a model or a mode for engaging international partners. And so these are 3 faculty that I've been involved with in Larry Becker in Environmental Sciences, Eric Meitz at the University of Aruba, Dwayne Plaza in the College of Liberal Arts and Sociology, and myself in developing this course called Coast Compared, Oregon and Aruba. So there are other ways also to collaborate through internships and courses. And so I want to highlight this piece here, collaboration with education. So it's heavy text, but there are important points to make, I feel. So through these internships and courses, we've been able to do on-site, remote, and hybrid. So the technology is out there to support that. Data literacy and monitoring projects fit really nicely in this collaborative online international learning COIL. And then course-based undergraduate research experience, CURE. So some of you may have heard of this, but this is a model that the Fish and Wildlife Department has used for the Coastal Ecology Resource Management course, where students actually do course-based research projects with agencies and other folks. There are also ways with K-12 education. I've listed Oregon Sea Grant Education, Tracy Cruz, and the Oregon Coast STEM Hub, Cynthia Resendez. A couple of online tools, the virtualfield.org. Again, this collaborative online international learning mode for not only courses, but also internships. And then I want to highlight research coordination networks. So through this, there's the NSF Research Coordination Network, Undergraduate Field Experiences Research Network, UFERN. And through a lot of the virtual activity over this past year, we developed got funding for another planning grant called Unifying Undergraduate Student Access to Field Experiences, U2SAVE. And then those last three bullets I want to highlight are OSU resources, the OSU Office of Undergraduate Research Scholarship and Arts, URSA, and the OSU Research Experience for Undergraduates, OSU Run. That was started during the pandemic as a way for a lot of intern coordinators to share information. And then finally, we have our Oregon Coast Internship Coordination Network. Right now, it's 4 of us, Sea Grant, Fort Orford, MSI, and Hatfield. So that's it. So I will be facilitating the second collaboration room focused on collaboration through mentoring. So thank you for your time.
Thanks, Chung. Chung always seems like during the summer he has a crowd of interns around him, but he's always smiling and appears to have a lot of fun with that. Our next example is collaboration across agencies, and I believe it features 2 speakers. Ben Laurel works for NOAA Fisheries, the Alaska Fisheries Science Center. He's been at Hatfield since 2005. His expertise is in early life history of marine fish with an emphasis on gadids. And Jessica Miller works for OSU, the Fish, Wildlife, and Conservation Sciences Department at Combs. She's been at Hatfield since 2006. And her expertise is on marine and anadromous fisheries ecology and early life history. So go ahead, Ben. You appear to be muted right now.
Hello, everybody can hear me? Technical issue over here once again with Zoom. I'm not sure if anybody can see.
We can see your screen fine.
Jessica?
Yes. Yes, we can see it great, and we can hear you.
No. Okay, it's a little choppy audio. I apologize if there's on your end too. So I'll talk about a specific collaboration between our lab, which is the NOAA Alaska Fisheries Science Center lab.
So Ben, I'm going to interrupt. Ben, can you go ahead and turn off your camera and leave your mic on? Let's try that. Your sound is really choppy on our end.
Yeah, I'm not hearing him now.
Maybe my video. Could you pull up the talk on your end, Jessica, and share your screen and I can talk?
Yes. I should be able to do that. Let me try it right here.
Or if the talk is shared, I guess it's
Here, can you see it?
Okay.
Is that the notes or is that the actual?
That's correct.
That looks like it.
Okay, it's all yours.
Sorry about that. So I'll just jump into it. This is a collaboration. Unfortunately, it's reactionary science, but it's typically what happens within agencies. We have a fisheries disaster essentially following the warm blob. The Gulf of Alaska Pacific cod population crashed, which is the second largest fishery in Alaska. And there's been a lot of focused attention on reallocating research dollars and trying to realign sort of management strategies to sort of address this, to sort of be better prepared for what's anticipated as future environmentally related fisheries disasters. And this collaboration really is focused around early life stages of fish. And it's something that both our lab at Hatfield, as well as Jessica Miller's lab, is really well poised for. We have different tools, but very complementary. And so it was natural to collaborate on this. And it was essentially 5 years collective funding along this research question. And just to sort of show you how that's sort of structured is just sort of a, if we go to, are you on, let's see, next slide, sorry. I'm looking at my own slides. So you can go to the next slide. Next slide. This is sort of the way the structure of the funding works. And this is kind of exemplifies a lot of the work that, when we're trying to work with academic partners, it's really a lot of the time is spent on how to get funding to where it needs to go in different agencies or multiple institutions. And so in this case, it was reallocation of funding both within NOAA, which we competed for internally, which we can have as no-cost collaborators, essentially, or partners in that from the academic side. But that funding stays within NOAA, and we can use other means of moving that to OSU, and SIMRS is a great example of that. So with SIMRS, we're able to reallocate some funds back to Oregon State University into Jessica's lab. But at the same time, having these parallel grants, either through NSF, and in this case, North Pacific Research Board is funding that can come directly in to OSU, but we can also, in the case of MPRB, also have a portion of that. But all of this stuff comes together really by being on the same campus and cross-sharing different resources, either technicians or just lab space to do the work that we're trying to do. And then go to the next slide. And for this work, it's pretty fun because we have a lot of collaborations that are operating at different fronts. And for the case of the work, because it's up in Alaska, we have field monitoring programs that are in place that allow students to participate in that research at nice times of year generally, although this July was a bit rainy. But it gives a chance for students to get their feet wet and literally, and then also get to see their species in situ. And then on top of that, we have in our lab here at Hatfield, we have live animal experimental work that we can do, which ironically, you end up wearing a thicker coat for often because a lot of the work is done in cold temperatures and to represent different times of year that don't represent what we can do up in the field. And I just, if you go to the next slide, this collaboration has been great. This is going into its third year. And from my perspective, it's, like it's going to be sort of echoed across, I think, the previous talks as well as, into the talks to come is, when we do these collaborations, we're obviously bringing new expertise and tools that we don't either have within our own agency, or the people that have those tools just don't have the time. And so we need to find people that have the interest, time, and the capabilities. And so that's great that Jessica is able to join us on this. It allows me to get involved with mentoring graduate students, something I can't do within NOAA. And even though it's not necessarily rewarded within NOAA, it's great and satisfactory to me, and it allows me to get new perspectives, and I think can be, obviously, it's fun and to go outside your own institution. The challenges are increased bureaucracy and rule compliance, unfortunately falling on the students. They have to satisfy safety rules, for example, in 2 institutions instead of 1. Funding allocations can be challenging, but we have mechanisms in place. It's just that you have to be really well aware of those and the timelines for moving those funds around. And so being proactive on those things can be really helpful. And I brought this up in our discussion group, but the challenges often are also satisfying institutional goals. So we have a fishery that is has a specific management process, and the science that goes with that to support that management process has to be kind of tailored so that it can get into that stream. And sometimes that might not necessarily mesh with the academic requirements of either students that are there, but it's also can be really rewarding to see that process. So those are just some perspectives. And then Jessica, I'll just pass it over to you if you want to tack onto that.
Sure, great, thanks. And Lori also mentioned she was hoping we talk a little bit about how, not just what. And I'll note, Ben started out talking about reactionary funding, which this was, but it was preloaded by earlier conversations, whether it was coffee, donuts, or over beers, or just over time, sort of getting in Ben's head, knowing what his program's about, talking about early life history. So we had an idea already begun that we could then really take advantage of when opportunity did arise. And I think it's been alluded to several times today, but I think that's huge. If I think of all the successful collaborations I've had that were actually funded, almost all of them clearly had some prior relationship and nuggets of different ideas, which means you're putting that time in, you know, when you don't know if it'll pan out. So I think that's a huge part of it. And I'm actually going to do this in reverse, I think. I'm going to talk about the key components, about what I think, as I just mentioned, to listening, really hearing, you know, about what people are doing and that interest, which is really hard in this crazy busy society we have, plus just the pressing needs of time. But carving out that space to build that relationship, I think Yi-Chung mentioned this too, is paramount to, I think, any of these successful collaborations. And I think clear communication, and it's said all the time, it's like, yeah, right, we need that. But I keep learning each year how to communicate better. And I think it's even more important, paramount, when you have students or involved, right? Because then you have, as we discussed in our session, you have those different management objectives, academic timelines, and really helping the student progress through that while communicating clearly about the scope is fundamental. And most of my collaborations with the NOAA, and this one in particular, right, involves students, postdocs. So it usually does have that broader group. And so it does take a different level of time commitment. It can't just be, you know, just when your lab or you can get together, you know, it's coordinating across that. And again, those sound like, yeah, I know, I have to make time for that. But those really are a bit different when you're doing these cross-agency institutional collaborations, I think. And although this was really catapulted by a good resource of reactionary funding, it's not always just grants. And again, having those conversations ahead of time can set you up to be ready to take advantage of either student opportunities, the right student that can actually come in and help get their own resources. So there's lots of benefits, other kinds of resources that can make these happen. And, you know, I work, I'm in the Fisheries, Wildlife, and Conservation Sciences department, but I'm also part of the Coastal Oregon Marine Experiment Station. So these collaborations let my work have a clear and management relevance, which is really important to my role. That might be a little different than all traditional academic positions, but that's a huge benefit. And I think it's also great. It's been mentioned, you know, he had a long-term time series. So institutions, federal institutions in particular, they can commit to collecting that long-term data, which then is a little harder with grant funding academic. So that partnership can let you really utilize those long-term time series. And it's been noted, there's, you know, broader perspectives brought in. I think it's a phenomenal training ground for students and postdocs, really opens the breadth of kinds of jobs they could get. And I think most of my students work for state agencies or federal agencies, and I think that's awesome. I think it's a great direction to go. Ben alluded to some of those challenges, and this was brought up during our small group session, you know, the academic timeline versus the state budgeting versus federal budgeting, and coursework and programs of studies. Those can take a bit of work communicating across institutions and making sure everything fits in with, say, the research and the management objective needs. And so there's just double the bureaucracy, which no one loves, but can get a little easier over time. And again, that clear communication helps on that front. And I think we're just on time, so I guess I'll stop sharing.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ben and Jessica, and good recovery from the technical glitch.
That's collaboration for you.
Yes, yes, in showing by doing. Our final talk on collaboration is a talk about the Coastal Oregon Zooplankton Investigation Team. It has 4 PIs to it. Lee Torres, who is part of the GEM group. She also works for Sea Grant. She's been at Hatfield since 2014, and she works on marine megafauna, spatial and behavioral ecology. Another member is Suzanne Branders, who's faculty in the Fish and Wildlife, Coastal Sciences, and CUMS. She moved to Hatfield, or she's moving to Hatfield in 2022, but has been working partially at Hatfield since 2019. She's an ecotoxicologist. Kim Bernard is an associate professor at OSU. She's been at OSU since 2013 in Corvallis. Her expertise is ocean ecology and biogeochemistry with a specialty in Antarctic krill. And then Sarah Henkel also works for Fish and Wildlife, Conservation Science, and CUMS. She's been at Hatfield for a while. I couldn't find a date, and she's a benthic ecologist. So if one of you wants to take over and share your screen, we are ready for you. Okay, technical difficulties. There's Suzanne.
I think Lee was planning to present, so she has our slides.
Okay, hopefully IT is helping out and getting that working.
Yeah, Cinnamon, you've got the host role. You need to give her co-host or give it back to me. Hang on, here we go. And try it now, Lee. Voila.
Hello, everybody. Okay, broken through. Great. Now I will share my presentation. Okay. Can you all see this? Yes. Great. I'll assume the answer is yes.
Yes, perfect.
Okay, thanks. All right, thanks. Really excited to represent our cool collaboration here. Acronym COZY, Coastal Oregon Zooplankton Investigation, which is basically about these critters, this zooplankton that live in these really near shore environments of the Oregon coast, rocky, reefy habitats that are hard to sample, and therefore we don't really understand too much about. Okay, so so as Lori said, I have an interest in marine mammal megafauna, so that's kind of how this started. I study both gray whale foraging ecology on one side, and then I collect fecal samples on the other side, and to try to understand ecology and health. But along the way with all of this, I had a lot of questions about what came in between, which is the zooplankton that the whales were eating, particularly about the quality of these different prey. So what was there, what their caloric content was, what their microplastic load content might be, etc. So that led to Team COZY, which are made up of these fantastic women, which I will introduce. So Lori already introduced a bit. So yes, I am Lee Torres. I have a lot of acronyms, but I study marine megafauna ecology mainly. Sarah Henkel is based at Hatfield. She is an associate professor in integrative biology and calls herself a benthic ecologist. Kim Bernard is also an associate professor based in SEOS on main campus, and her expertise is in zooplankton ecology. And then Suzanne Brander, who is based in Corvallis, but moving out here in transition. She's an assistant professor also in fisheries and wildlife conservation sciences, and her expertise is ecotoxicology. So my job in this collaboration was to basically collect the zooplankton samples in the field off the Oregon coast. Sarah was looking at the community composition from the samples collected. Kim's job was to lead the caloric content assessment of the zooplankton samples, of the zooplankton species, and then Suzanne's work was leading the microplastic analysis of the samples. So why did we get into this? Well, I said, oops, sorry. Something's going on with my screen. There we go. Sorry. I said I wanted to know more about gray whale prey. So I found a great team of experts that I liked too, which this is very true. Sarah said, I wanted to connect my benthic observations to higher trophic levels. I wanted to work with other scientists I respect and wanted to get to know better professionally. Kim's motivation for this collaboration was it sounded like a great research project, and I thought it would be really fun to work with y'all. So this is echoing some of the sentiments other people have said about augmenting our own research, but also having fun along the way and leaning on other people's expertise. So Suzanne said, I was excited to learn about Oregon's marine ecosystems and fill large data gaps on microplastic occurrence in biota of the Pacific Northwest coast. So that was a bit about our motivation. So now I thought I was being clever by echoing back to this pre-summit survey results, but obviously everybody else thought that was a great way to go too. But so the rest of it sort of focuses on these perceived barriers. And I went to our team and I sort of asked everybody on the COSI team, you know, how we perceived these barriers or overcame them. So the first one was this perceived barrier of funding. And really, the collaboration was a plus in our funding application. So we got funding for the project from the Agricultural Research Foundation. And this was a quote in our proposal that said, COSI is a cross-college collaborative effort led by 4 early career female scientists. So we really emphasized that we are collaborative, and I think that worked in our favor. Also, another comment that came back from our team was that by collaborating, we could leverage each other's resources to achieve our common goal. So yeah, we really think that collaboration was not a hindrance, to getting funding. So no time. If each of us tried to do all of this on our own, it would have taken ages, but by collaborating, we cut down on what each person does individually. And that is very true. And then the other key, I think, to our success was that we included support for students in our funding efforts, and that funding them was really the key. They worked with each PI individually on various goals of the project, and that was really effective. So I really do want to highlight and emphasize that student part of our project, because Team COSI certainly involves all of them. And it was led primarily, the leading of the big team of undergrads was by Lisa Hildebrand, who was my master's student and now is my PhD student. And we had a great team of undergrads come through and help us with different aspects of the project. And I leaned on this term that I learned from my Sea Grant colleagues called near peer mentoring, which is basically where you mentor the next level closest to you. So as a PI, I might mentor my graduate students who then mentor the undergraduate students who might then mentor high school students. And the idea is that there's easier connections and more relatability, I guess. So that worked really well in this sense. And this was our team of different undergrads. I got some great experience working in the labs and all 4 of our labs and doing different things. And it was really successful. And we got lucky with some great students. So this perceived barrier of communication, really it was open, honest, clear, and regular, and that worked for us. We would have been nice to communicate more over wine, but or beer, but the pandemic put a hindrance on that, but we persevered. And one comment back was that the project probably could have been even better if we had more regular team meetings, but I think we did well overall through email, especially since our tasks were kind of sequential. So the barrier of no space, we all shared space for the project. So, and by collaborating, we effectively quadrupled the space and resources that we had to do the project. So yeah, I think collaboration can really expand the space that you have available to do the work. and we found that. No connections. Well, this can be challenging, but really, we just reached out directly, or I did, I guess, when I was trying to pull this project together, when I realized I needed other people's expertise to do this project. So, and I just approached people at faculty meetings or at donuts when I, knew they had potentially some expertise or interest that I could potentially rope into the project. One comment from Kim, who's based in Corvallis, said it was harder for me to feel connected to Hatfield because I'm based in Corvallis, but by collaborating, my connections have grown. So instead of connections being a barrier to collaboration, collaboration has increased my connections. So unsure of who does what, and yeah, that can be challenging, but really, and other people have said this, paying attention during seminars and when people introduce themselves during talks and different announcements, I think that's really key. That's where we can learn, who has what skill sets or interests that, can complement our own. Different goals for us, we recognize that we all shared a common goal of wanting to understand this coastal zooplankton better, just for a different reason or perspective. And so we found a common goal among our broad different research goals, and that worked for us. Common goals weren't hard to find here, but we are all coming from academia, and we all care about the environment ecology. So that part was easy. This may be more challenging when working across sectors with different motives. And I think that's true. We are all academics, so we need to recognize that. And the previous talk by Ben and Jessica kind of highlight a different side to that collaboration, working across sectors, which probably is more challenging. So just to wrap up, back to this image of the core team here, I wanted to leave everybody with a chance to give a final comment on this collaboration. And Kim says it's harder to conduct research at Hatfield when based in Corvallis. So she called out challenges with unpredictable weather and trying to get field work done, and also finding housing out here. But she said by collaborating with folks already based in Newport, I didn't need to get out for field work. So that was a benefit of the collaboration to her. Sarah said that sharing students is really effective and students are really capable, and we got some good ones. And I totally agree with that. When you bring people together from different research backgrounds, we can find great synergy. So yeah, I think we were successful in that. Suzanne said getting to know people at Hatfield and working in different areas was hugely beneficial. We have so many ideas budding off this initial work, and that's true. We are looking forward with COSI now. Working with people who are really smart, but also just fun to be around is one of the best parts of being in the sciences. So I think, yeah, collaboration is certainly a fun aspect, and that's been echoed all afternoon, I've heard, so that's great. And myself, I said, I've learned so much from this amazing team. My research and ecological understanding would be so far behind without it. So yeah, I'm super grateful. And COSI Phase 2 is coming soon. So we are definitely trying to expand the work and asking more questions as we move forward. So thanks for the time. That's all.
Thank you so very much, Lee. And thank you everyone who presented at our second session of talks, Yi-Chung, Ben and Jessica. We appreciate you all sharing your perspective and adding to the flavor of collaboration that we've talked about. Due to some technical issues, we're running a little behind, so we are going to jump right into our next series of collaboration rooms. And again, you are going to be sent out in just a second here based on the rooms that you have identified in your registration. And if you didn't ask for a room, hang on and Eric will help you get to where you're going. Hopefully we'll have a 2-minute warning that'll pull us back, and then we'll wrap up our day. So Eric, do you want to go ahead and push us out?
Here we go.
Eric, can you push me again? This is, I don't know if that's possible.
Okay, where were you? Let's see, where are you supposed to go,
My
Tom?
connection timed out right as you were about to push.
Same with me too.
Okay, we must have a limit on our Zoom thing.
Yeah, just if you open up the
The
breakout
chat?
rooms, there should be a you've been invited, and just click yes.
Oh, got it. Yes.
It didn't push them. That's weird.
How do we get to the breakout room choices?
Ryan, where did you want to go? Oh, here, let me show you what your choices are real quick. Yeah. So those are the rooms that are available.
Yeah, Eric, I got booted out, but I actually I also want to change the room that I was assigned to.
Okay. What do you want to go to?
Collaboration through mentoring.
Actually, I think Anna Bohlman and I are both supposed to go to that room as well.
We are. I also was pushed.
Yeah, same here.
And who is that with? Just
so Kim Jacobson,
Kim Jacobson,
Anna Bohlman, and I forget who was just talking.
Ryan.
That'd be Francis.
No.
No.
Okay, I'm trying to find Kim here. Hang on. Okay, Kim, you should be in collaboration through mentoring. If you open up your breakout rooms panel, they might give you the option to accept the invitation.
Where is? Oh, so just click on the link down below, and it'll it'll take you there. It's not doing anything.
It says you're there, but you have not joined. So I can. If you.
I don't know how to get there.
Yeah, at the bottom of your Zoom window, there should be a button that says Breakout Rooms.
I'm not seeing it.
Yeah, I don't see it on mine either. This is Scott.
This is Francis. I don't have one either.
Okay, Scott, let's start with you real quick. Where did you?
Collaboration through mentoring.
All right, Francis.
Climate change fisheries.
Climate change in
fisheries.
Fisheries. Okay.
This is Greg. I might go with data and collection from surveys and fisheries observers.
Okay. All right.
Hang
on, Greg.
Fisheries ones.
Oh, breakout rooms. There it is. Thank you.
Yep.
Michelle Stoll here. Can you send me to collaboration through mentoring, please?
Eric, this is Susan. You know,
Yes.
if I can get to the shared facilities and resources, that would be great. If not, I can do the collaboration and mentoring.
Here we go. Let's give it a shot. Robert and Justin, are you?
Yeah, I'm supposed to be in. This is Justin. Climate change and fisheries.
Climate change and fisheries.
Hey, are you listening?
Yep.
Hey, can you send me to the human dimension space, please?
Just a little bit more time here. All right, Eric, I think you can go ahead and close that poll. And this poll is primarily for the planning group, but we did see that this met our expectations primarily, 88%. We had 92% of people said they learned something new. And we had 100%, whoa, said they met somebody they had never met before. So that's awesome. And then we knew we would have a small group of about 10% of us that will be meeting up at Beer One after. So that is also great. So thank you very much for answering those polls. Lori, actually, we're going to hand this off to Angie. Angie's going to do a quick wrap up of our Jamboard.
Awesome, thanks. I have, I'm just going to show some highlights. So let me share. I want to start just by showing everyone where we're working. We've got a lot of people in the new Marine Studies building, as well as NOAA, a couple people outside Hatfield. So that's one of the summit rooms, and this is the other. So I like it. We got a soccer ball over here. So, but we look like we have quite a bit of representation from NOAA, from EPA, and obviously from OSU. And I liked the use of the arrow as well. So thank you for that. Let me move this so I can actually get it. And then just some highlights from the collaboration rooms from our morning session, from the climate change and marine systems. There's quite a few collaborations already going on. So this was a really interesting one to look at some of the things that people are already working on. Nice to know that collaborations are happening regularly. And then I just wanted to highlight slide 8, the barriers, a lot of different barriers that came up that were not necessarily reflected in the survey, as well as some strategies and opportunities for overcoming these barriers and for working on collaborations in the future. And this is from the climate change and fisheries group. So some interesting ideas there for ways to overcome barriers. And in fact, I recommend you look at all 4 of these Jamboards for the strategies people use to overcome barriers. And finally, from this first one, I wanted to highlight this really cool slide that looking at what instruments, sensors, or parameters would be useful to include in the Hatfield Marine Science Center Climate Monitoring Station. Lots of good ideas. It turns out we want a station that does everything. So good luck. Hopefully that works out. From the other morning session, from the state and federal, collaborating with state and federal agencies. Also some really good ideas for strategies to overcome barriers. So if you're trying to figure out how to work with state and federal agencies, I recommend you check out this slide. It has some good information. And then for impacts of climate change in Pacific Northwest estuaries, I also just wanted to highlight slide 9. They really broke it out into physical impacts, biogeochemical, ecological, and human dimensions. I just thought it was a really neat, creative way to think about this from multiple perspectives. So nice job there. For our afternoon sessions, climate change in marine systems, once again, had some really cool things. Slide 4 here, what are you looking for from a collaboration and what expertise can you offer to a collaboration? This was a slide that they created on their own, and a lot of good ideas here. So if you're looking for a particular collaboration topic, a lot of people and ideas to check out there. And then moving on to collaborating with human dimension scientists, a good conversation about barriers, but also overcoming barriers and opportunities. So if you are a natural scientist yourself and you've been wondering how to more closely engage with or work with human dimension scientists, some really good ideas here, both recognizing some of the things that prevent barriers and then how you can really kind of overcome those barriers to prevent them from stopping you. And one last slide to share from this afternoon, and this is from collaboration through mentoring. Also wanted to highlight some of their barriers and strategies. So if you are looking at creating new collaborations as a mentor or working with interns or students, some ideas here on what have prevented those collaborations from being successful in the future. And I'm very curious about Ocean's 11. So it seems like there was a good conversation happening in that room. But overall, a lot of really great ideas and thoughts. And obviously we don't have time to talk about all of them, but I recommend checking out the Jamboards.
And Angie, can you tell us how long those will be live and how we can get back to them if we want to check out or to capture some of the things that were talked about in our particular sessions?
Yeah, absolutely. So I will be downloading these as PDFs probably tomorrow to give people a chance to kind of look. And I know that some people were using time during the break to clean up the Jamboards from their own session. So we'll leave them open and live. And then I'll download them as a PDF file. So we'll have copies of them as PDFs forever. And then I'll probably close them to editing, but the link themselves will still be live. So you'll be able to view them. You just won't be able to edit them.
Perfect. That sounds great. So thank you everybody for participating in the Jamboards. That was an experiment for us, but I think it was fun. I'm going to hand it off to Lori to kind of wrap us up for today.
Thank you, Cinnamon. We have a lot of thank yous, starting with the committee, the steering committee for this. We've been meeting since, I believe, May. Committee members included Michelle Stoll, Leif Rasmussen, Will White, Kelly Lawrence, Michelle Ottmar, Angie Dorr, Ichang, Anna Bohm, Tom Hurst, Jason Eibner, Alicia Billings, Ted DeWitt, Cheryl Brown, and Casey Burlich. Our speakers, Bob Cowan, Jennifer Fisher, Scott Groth, Ichang, Suzanne Bradner, and actually it was not Suzanne, it was Lee Torres that gave that talk, and Ben Laurel and Jessica Miller. And the collaboration room leaders, Chris Jordan, Ted DeWitt, Leif Rasmussen, Tom Hurst, Drummond Biles, Bob Cowan, Lisa Balance, Francis Chan, Mary Hunsiger, Laura Lilly, Steve Rumrill, Matt Harwell, Flaxen Conway, Tommy Swearingen, Cheryl Brown, Casey Bierlich, Ben Laurel, Zoe Amida, Anna Bohm, Kim Jacobson, Kate Richardson, Alicia Billings, and Doug Draper. And special thanks to Amanda Stiles, who put together the highlight reel, and our IT help, Eric Gletzky, who came through quite a few times. And I'd also like to give special thanks to Cinnamon. She's doing this very remote for this summit and has done an absolutely fantastic job under a tough situation. and look for a post-survey event. Excuse me, a post-event survey that's going to be coming out later this week. I hope you appreciate that we really do pay attention to what is in the pre and post surveys. That's how we get people on the committees, etc. We really are using your input to shape this. This is for all of us. It's not like we sit here and say, oh, I think we should do this. So please respond to those surveys. They're really, really important. And especially we invite you to join the committee if you have some ideas. We had this harebrained idea this time to try and push on collaboration, and I think it worked. I think given the conversations I certainly experienced, it was absolutely fantastic. Casey, is he on? Can he invite us to Beer One?
So Eric,
Maybe
can you
not.
show that last slide for us? There it is.
Oh, can we unmute Casey quick? So Casey has been our social coordinator for this event, and he will be at Beer One. Many of us will be at Beer One starting around 5:30. They know we're coming and enjoy you an in-person, and it looks like the rain is actually holding off as well, so we might even be able to sit outside if need be. And just say you're with HMSC when you arrive. Anything else, then?
Yeah, I just was able to unmute. Yeah, come join us for a drink at Beer One. They're expecting us. They said I think we'll have that little side area inside and outside. So yeah, come on by. I'll be there around 5:30 and looking forward to seeing everyone in person.
Fantastic. Any last words? Otherwise, thank you all for participating. This has been a really wonderful summit. I think we all, based on the responses, learned a lot and really look forward to being in person next year.
Yeah, thanks, Lori. Thanks, Cinnamon. Thanks, everybody else. Much appreciated.
Thanks everyone for attending. We'll see you next year.